The following program contains strong sexual content. Viewer discretion is advised. Today on an all-new Dr. Phil.
My stepdad molested my son.
Let's check your air and your tires.
He said, Papa touches me.
Cindy made this all up.
A grandfather accused.
I miss you, sexy butt.
You don't think it's odd for him to say that a child has a sexy butt?
He's just a very playful guy.
The child says he's been touching him.
I know children go through different stages.
They don't go through that stage.
Is he a molester?
Your husband took a plea.
Correct.
People plead out generally because they're guilty.
Or falsely accused?
I did not touch my grandson, sir.
That's what you pled to. You're saying now that you didn't do this. Let's do it. This is a safe place to talk about hard things.
Stand by. We'll count you down.
I try to be an emotional compass and point you in the right direction.
5, 4.
I am not giving up on you. If you have children, you really want to listen to today's show. Take a look at a few different memories of a grandfather and his grandson recorded on a cell phone video and given to us by my first guest, Betty.
Come on, I miss you, sexy butt. I miss you, sexy butt. Oh, the bear just had a baby Mariah. Look, the baby come out of her butt. Wow, look at that big butt. That's a baby's butt. Holy cow, look at that butt. I want to check your tires. Let's check your air and your tires. Give it a good squeeze with your fingers. Okay, oh, here comes the little rascal. She's going to check our tires. Check the tires.
Are these just innocent moments of a grandfather playing with his grandson? Or can something else be read into the nickname Sexy Butt? Or the fact that he's telling a 5-year-old boy that Grandpa needs to check his tires? Betty says these interactions are perfectly normal and that her husband, Bill, is a wonderful grandfather. But despite his devotion to his family, he was arrested and put in jail for what she and Bill say are false allegations of sexual abuse of this little boy. Now they say their entire family is being torn apart by vicious lies. In fact, they believe their grandson was coached by one woman who Betty says has been out to get them for years. It's the little boy's step-grandmother, Cindy. Betty says she has made this whole thing up, all to destroy this family.
About 2 years ago, when my grandson was 5 years old, there was a knock on our door, and there was a policeman there asking to speak to Bill. The police did allege that Bill inappropriately touched my grandson. Bill was arrested on the spot and taken to jail. The police charged Bill with child molestation, and my husband spent 2 weeks in jail. I went ballistic. I knew there was no way in the world Bill's never laid a hand on our grandson. Is all lies. I believe Cindy is behind this 100%. My husband was given a bond, but he was released. It made the news. We live in a very small town, and everybody knows everybody's business, and it was horribly devastating.
The man accused of sexual abuse on a 6-year-old boy faced the judge this morning.
Judge Martin Gahn detailed the events that led to a charge of sexual abuse in the first degree.
Bill had to go to court. I was terrified. The prosecution claimed they had found a video on Bill's phone. The video is just of my husband, Bill, calling my grandson sexy butt. And then he pinched him on the butt.
Come on, I miss you, sexy butt. I miss you, sexy butt. I miss you.
That video was non-incriminating at all. The prosecutor said they could prove that that was a lustful video on Bill's phone. The prosecutor did claim that that was child abuse. Bill's attorney told us that pretty much put the nail in Bill's coffin. If Bill had been found guilty of these charges, he was facing up to 40+ years. A few weeks ago, Bill reached a plea deal. Bill was charged with felony child abuse. My grandson has absolutely been ripped from our lives for no reason. My husband has been falsely accused. My husband has done absolutely nothing wrong, and this has completely destroyed our lives.
Okay, Betty, I know this is difficult for you. Now, you stand by your husband 100%.
I absolutely do.
No question in your mind whatsoever.
No question in my mind whatsoever.
All right, now, you've been married to him how long?
Over 23 years.
So you know him a long time.
Absolutely.
You feel like you know his character, you know his values.
Absolutely.
You know his history.
Yes.
And you've seen him with this little boy time and time again.
Correct.
And he's playful with him.
Yes.
They roughhouse, play around.
Correct.
But you don't believe there is anything that has crossed the line or even approached the line.
No, I don't believe so.
So how did we get in this situation?
We've been dealing with this. I don't even care to call her step-grandmother because she's never actually been a stepmother to my daughter. She's turned us into CPS several times, and they never found any issues.
You and your husband, Bill, you say have been raising this little boy in question since the beginning, since like weeks old.
Yes, we've had him since he was 8 weeks old.
Okay, why?
Because his father is no longer with us.
Why?
Because he committed suicide.
All of this turmoil, it's difficult on your daughter. You wind up being primary caregiver for this child. And as he grows and bonds with you and your husband, Bill, then these allegations arise. And supposedly he mentioned something at school, but then he told Cindy, supposedly, that your husband, Bill, had been touching him.
Correct.
Correct?
Correct.
And she then reported this to the police.
Correct.
And you don't believe that your grandson told her that?
No, I don't believe that. It's not the first time she's tried to get my children to say things.
Okay, but your grandson also reported that to a forensic interviewer for Child Protective Services, and that interview was recorded, and it lasted for an extended period of time. He went into extensive detail and reported these things to that individual.
Correct. Correct.
How do you explain that?
I was told by my daughter that my grandson was taken behind closed doors and talked to by the step-grandmother for several hours before he was ever taken to the actual.
Okay, and he was how old at the time?
He was 5 years old.
Have you seen that interview?
I have seen the interview.
Do you believe that you could coach a 5-year-old that effectively, that he could sustain that story across a period of time?
Yeah, I do. I do. If you spend 3 hours behind closed doors with somebody. With
a 5-year-old.
Right.
Your husband took a plea here.
Correct.
People that plead out to crimes generally do it because they're guilty, and I've been in the legal system my entire professional career, and I have very seldom, if ever, seen people take pleas when they didn't have culpability.
Okay.
Just statistically speaking.
Right, I understand. We really felt like the cards were stacked against us, not because Bill would hurt anybody.
But he registered as a child abuser. He's a registered child abuser.
He had no choice. I mean, he did not want to.
He did have a choice.
Well, he did. But they put those children on the stand at a pre-trial that we were called into 2 days before the actual trial. We were going to trial to fight this. And the attorney was all gung-ho and ready to do that. And he called us in, tracked us down, and had us come in and tells us in his office that there's that video on the phone. Doesn't tell us what it's of. We do not see it until he gets his phone back and tells us that it pretty much puts the nail in Bill's coffin. And then they put those children on the stand. And that was just absolutely heartbreaking. And he just did not want to put those children through that, because they were actually told that if they didn't tell the truth, they would put their grandfather in jail for the rest of his life. And my husband did not want those children living with that on their conscience.
Do you think it's odd for a grown man to say that a child has a sexy butt?
He's just a very playful guy.
And later,
there's no 5-year-old gonna make something like this up.
We don't watch dirty movies. Bill's never sat there and watched dirty movies with our grandson. That's not true at all.
Monday on an all-new Dr. Phil. Her kids live with her parents.
They want me to look incompetent. Therefore, they can gain custody of my children.
Is she stable enough?
I was misquoted, and I look like an idiot.
You can't just point the finger on everyone else.
To get her children back.
I feel in a daze, and they took my daughter because they said I was a perpetrator of domestic violence.
The only person that's brought up you being a perpetrator is you.
That's Monday.
Do you think it's odd for a grown man to say that a child has a sexy butt?
Well, I mean, you'd have to know Bill. He's just a super loving, caring person. And like I told them, it's not any different than, I mean, we have a flight of steps. I used to torment him going up the steps to make him walk faster. I mean, maybe I didn't say things like that, but I mean, I would pinch them on the butt to get them to move up the steps faster, and they would run and trip over themselves, and it was just playful. It wasn't, and there also was a big song out. There's also a video of my other grandson online of him singing that same song, so it was just a song they were interested in at the time. I mean, maybe Bill didn't phrase it the way politically correct, but he absolutely would have never meant anything by that. Not enough.
But you don't think it's odd for him to be saying sexy butt and grabbing him? He's saying sexy butt.
I understand that. Yeah, I do. I mean, it's not something maybe I would say, but it's not anything uncommon that Bill would have said, but it doesn't, he wouldn't mean it anyway. It's not anything different he wouldn't have said to our own children. He's just a very playful guy.
Well,
okay.
Here's the video where Bill calls his step-grandson sexy butt. Let's look at it. It went by quickly earlier.
Okay, come here. Let's show you the picture. Come on, I miss you, sexy butt. I miss you, sexy butt. I miss you. I love you.
I love you both.
I love you more.
Is that troubling to you?
I mean, yeah, I wouldn't have maybe said it like that, but it's just, he didn't mean it in a sexual way. I mean, yeah, maybe he should have used other words, but Bill would never hurt a child. He would never hurt a child.
But that taken with a forensic interview where the child says that he's been touching him and having the child touch him daily, undressed, in bed, under the covers, with a stranger that's doing an interview. That's then all of a sudden that puts it in a particular context as well.
I see that. I understand that. Yes.
And did you watch that interview all the way through?
The one from the company?
Right.
Oh, I've watched it 3 times.
All the way through?
All the way, for what they've given us,
Did you see what happened at the end? The child began to touch himself at the end.
Oh, I did see that. I mean, the kids go through that.
Was that coached?
I don't know that would be coached, but I know children at that age go through stages where they're learning themselves.
But Betty, I mean, come on.
I understand what you're saying.
You got to. I'm trying to help you here. I'm not prejudging this situation, but I'm trying to get everything on the table here. At the end of this, he's discussing all this sexual activity,
right?
Real or imagined, coached or not. He's suggesting all the discussing all the sexual activity. They're drawing body parts. They're talking about it all, and then when the interviewer leaves the room, he begins to self-stimulate.
Right. But we also had been telling my daughter for months.
That's not typical.
No, it is. It is difficult.
That's not typical.
No, it's not. I know children go through different stages.
They don't go through that stage. That's not typical. I'm telling you, that's not typical. It is typical for children to explore their bodies. I understand that. That was not typical exploration.
Okay.
All right, Betty says there is one woman who lied and started this nightmare just because she is jealous of Bill and Betty's relationship. That person is Cindy. It is Cindy that says that these details were revealed to her by the grandson. It was Cindy that was one of the people that reported this to the police. Well, she's here. We're going to find out what she has to say after the break.
Bill was molesting my grandchild.
I hate Cindy. It's absolutely all lies. Cindy made this all up.
The part that infuriates me the most is that they're trying to make people believe that my grandson was lying and that I put these lies in his head.
And later,
Bill would have been the last person on earth I ever thought would hurt a child. I was in shock. It's still hard to talk about it. Bill molested my son.
This May.
When you were with her, were you involved with other women?
Yes. Hey, I'm not married, yo. I'm not married.
The stories are more intense.
He rubs my face and hits my head against the wall.
That did not happen?
No.
It's sad how much you lie. No, you're the
crazy.
compulsive
Can I talk now? Because he keeps speaking over me. That's not class. Learn some class.
An Amish mafia star comes under attack.
You think he steals money?
I really believe so.
You're gonna sit here and lie all day or what?
I can't trust him. He's one of those Amish guys that controls their women. Let me talk.
Only on Dr. Phil.
Our lives have changed completely. Being from a small town, everybody knows you. It's embarrassing. It's humiliating.
The man accused of sexual abuse on a 6-year-old boy faced the judge this morning.
People look at you differently. Bill being charged with sexual abuse is a parent's worst nightmare. Bill and I cry every single day.
Betty says her life was completely ruined when her husband was falsely accused of molesting their grandson. She says the woman behind it all is her ex-husband's ex-wife, Cindy, who reported the alleged abuse to authorities. Cindy says she is disgusted that Betty is taking Bill's side.
A few years ago, my grandson was at my home, and he said, "Grandma, I have to tell you a secret." He said, "Papa touches me, and I don't like it." I was dumbfounded. I said, "Where does he touch you?" And he pointed to right between his legs. And I just sat with him and held him and cried. And he kept saying, "I'm sorry, Grandma." I was sickened. I was furious. I was scared for him. I asked my grandson why he had never said anything to anyone before. And he said, because Papa kept saying we're special buddies. And if anyone found out, we wouldn't be allowed to see each other anymore. Papa would get in a lot of trouble. And they wouldn't be able to play with their trains anymore. He said, Papa has movies of lots of naked girls. And we lay in bed together and watch them. He said, Grandma watches the movies with us. I said, is that when Papa touches you? And he said, yeah, sometimes when Grandma goes to sleep. Shock isn't even the word I can begin to use. Disbelief. It felt surreal. I couldn't believe the words that were coming out of his mouth. The very next day, I contacted the police department, and then I contacted Child Protective Services.
I hate Cindy. It's absolutely all lies. Cindy made this all up.
The part that infuriates me the most is that they're trying to make people believe that my grandson was lying and that I put these lies in his head. Bill was molesting my grandchild, and I know that Betty was condoning it.
I would like to look Cindy in the eye and tell her that she is a bull-faced liar. You spent your life trying to do this.
Why would I spend my life trying to ruin yours, Betty? I have plenty of other things to do. Yeah.
Did you make all of this up?
No, I did not.
Did you embellish this to the police?
No.
Did you report it in an accurate fashion?
I did.
Did you lead this child?
No. After my grandson told me what happened, we never actually talked about it again.
Did you go behind closed doors with him for 3 hours before he went to the interview with the CPS representative?
I never even knew he was having a CPS interview. I wasn't there. I was not part of it. I was not even told he was being interviewed by them.
You heard her say some things on the tape that you took exception to. What jumped out at you?
Her saying that he would watch movies in bed and I was there too at the same time. That's never happened. We don't watch dirty movies. Bill's never sat there and watched dirty movies with our grandson. That's not true at all.
I hope it's not true, Betty.
It's not true.
I would love for none of it to be true. There's no 5-year-old going to make something like this up.
I don't believe he made it up. I believe you helped him through that story. It's not the first time.
And I feel sorry for you.
The child was at your house the evening that this was reported to you.
That's correct.
And he had mentioned something at school that day to a counselor.
Yes.
And what he had said at school was that someone had hurt him. And what he had talked about was a boyfriend of Sasha's that had been rough with him, that had grabbed him by the arm.
Correct.
Correct? But he said to you that there was actually more that he had not talked about, correct?
Right.
And you said that, and at that point, all you knew about was what he had said to the counselor at school?
Yes.
And you did not know about anything of a sexual nature at all, correct?
That's correct.
Because I've read carefully the statement that you gave to the police. And you were the first one to talk to the police about the sexual content, correct?
Yes.
And how long after he told you that was it before you reported it to the police?
The very next morning.
I'm curious, when you were with him that night, you said that he kind of crawled up with you and you kind of held him close and he just told you about this.
No, well, no. That is eventually what had happened. But leading up to that, he was just drawing in the floor and working on his homework and watching TV. And he said, "How much trouble can I get in for telling a lie?" And I said, "Well, it depends on what your lie is, buddy." But I said, "You're not supposed to do that." And then that's whenever it all started, the whole subject.
But did you draw a snowman?
We were talking, and all of a sudden he stopped. And he was drawing snow. He said, "Look what I learned how to draw in school today." And he was drawing snowflakes. And then that's whenever I drew the snowman. And I said, "Can you show me on the snowman?"
So you did draw a snowman?
Yeah, but not first. That's how the snowman came into the picture, was he drew snowflakes.
You didn't tell the police you drew a snowman?
We actually gave him the picture. He did say Papa was touching him. And that's how the answer came out when I said, "Where was Grandma?"
That would never happen. I would never stand for that.
Did you tell the police about the movies?
No, I don't believe so.
So he told you that his grandfather was showing him pornographic movies.
No, he said movies with naked girls. No, he did not say any pornography. Well, no, because I said like HBO or something like that.
He tells you he's watching movies with naked people in them in bed with his grandfather, sometimes his grandmother, while his grandfather is touching him and he's touching his grandfather.
Yes, because my main concern was that someone was physically hurting him. And it needed to stop.
You told the police that he told you that his pawpaw was hurting him.
Yes.
And that he didn't like it.
Mm-hmm.
Because every other time he's talked about this, he said he liked it, and he didn't say it was hurt, that he was being hurt. You're the only one that he's ever said he was being hurt and that he didn't like it.
Okay.
So you're the only one that has described it that way.
Okay.
Which is inconsistent with every other account of it that he's given. And I'm wondering if that's your interpretation of it or if it's what he actually said.
That is what he told me.
That doesn't mean it's okay that it happened. I'm just asking if that's you believing that he was being hurt or he told you he was being hurt.
Honestly, I can't answer. He told me
this
that he was
seared in your mind.
Right. And
I want to know because this is very, very important to me.
Well, it's very important to me too. And he did say Papa was touching him.
That wasn't the question. The question was, did he tell you he was hurting
Yes.
him?
Yes, he did.
He told you he was hurting him?
Yes.
And he told you that his grandmother was in bed with them watching these movies of naked women?
He said sometimes she would be sleeping.
You said she would watch them, and when she would go to sleep, then he would touch him.
Right.
That she would watch the movies with them, then when she would go to sleep. What you said was that she was awake, watching the movies with them, then when she would go to sleep, he would touch her. That's what you said.
He would touch him, yeah.
So was she awake watching the movies and asleep with the touching, or was she asleep while the movies were on? Because you said she was awake.
She was awake while the movies were on.
So you're saying this woman was in bed watching movies of naked people with a 5-year-old in bed, and then she would fall asleep and the touching would begin.
And the reason that even came up is because I said, where's Grandma? And that's how the answer came out when I said, where was Grandma? Does Grandma know?
That would never happen. I've never would, first of all, I wouldn't be comfortable watching naked movies. I like myself covered up. I would never stand for that. When we tried to fight to see those children because we missed them horribly, it was brought out in court that my mother would never stand for that, regardless of how much she loves my dad. She's not afraid, and she would have never let that go on. And the only way you would know things were going on in court is your friends, the police officers in court, told you.
Who told me anything, Betty?
Well, didn't you send me a nasty email saying I accused you of all of this in court when the only people in court was the family and the police officers
Not
that are
one
your
time
friends?
in that email does it mention court.
It doesn't?
And they have the email.
I know they have the email. I sent it to them.
He tells a very different story than what you say he said. It's very inconsistent. Glaring discrepancies.
Bill raised me. Like, that was my dad. He's never done it to me. He's always been good with kids. But then actually hearing my son talk about it for the first time a couple weeks ago just completely tore me apart.
Monday on an all-new Dr. Phil. Her kids live with her parents.
They want me to look incompetent. Therefore, they can gain custody of my children.
Is she stable enough?
I was misquoted, and I look like an idiot.
You can't just point the finger on everyone else.
To get her children back.
I feel in a daze, and they took my daughter because they said I was a perpetrator of domestic violence.
The only person that's brought up you being a perpetrator is you.
That's Monday.
I've often wondered who else has been molested. I fear that there are more victims. My fear is that if Bill isn't stopped by getting locked up, that he's gonna know, I got off with it once, I'll get away with it again, and just continue to ruin children's lives.
Betty says her daughter Sasha could have stopped all of this nonsense a long time ago against her husband Bill. So where does the boy's mother come down in all of this? Even though Sasha says she initially thought Bill was innocent, she is now certain that he molested her innocent 5-year-old child.
One day, Cindy called me on the phone and told me that my son had been molested by my stepdad, Bill. At first, I couldn't believe what she was saying. I was in shock. Bill would have been the last person on earth I ever thought would hurt a child. He's always been so good with kids. Bill and my son have always had a great relationship. My son loves him. I feel like Bill's destroyed my son's life. I know my son, there's no way he would make things up like that. Bill molested my son. It's still hard to talk about it. It's still hard to believe because he was my stepdad. What blows me away is how can somebody molest their own grandson? What I want from Bill is for him to admit that he has abused my son, but I'm afraid he won't and he never will, not even to Dr. Phil.
Sasha, I'm glad you're here. I know this has to be very difficult for you. At this point, you're in a very different position than you were when this first started. When this first started, you did not believe that Bill had done this, correct?
Right.
You were supportive of him, right? Why were you supportive of him then?
It's not that I was like not believing my son. It was just Bill raised me. Like that was my dad. He's never done it to me. He's always been good with kids. He was always good with us. And then seeing all this stuff come out, it was just hard, upsetting. But then actually hearing my son talk about it for the first time a couple weeks ago just completely tore me apart.
Mm-hmm. And when you say hearing him talk about it for the first time, you never talked to him about it? You never asked him about it until 2 weeks ago?
I wasn't allowed. They told me that it would be best for me not to talk to my son about it, which was extremely hard because my stepdad's attorney could say that I kept reminding him of it, and they wanted it to ask him again before trial and see if he gave the same story.
Uh-huh.
Okay, Sasha, were you not in the vehicle when I kissed him goodbye when I was seeing him? And he said, Nana, I told my counselors Papa always never hurt me.
Yes, he did say that.
Why would you continue to bring him around and beg for us to watch him?
I didn't know all this was going on.
You knew all this was going on all along. We've had several conversations. You've made several statements that you know that he would never hurt them. That the reason you were going along with it is because you're afraid, because she has the influence at the police department, that they'll take your kids away from you, which will take away all your income.
No, that's not it at all.
So did she say that to you?
Sure, she says that to me, and I believe it's in a text message somewhere.
Yeah. What mother isn't afraid to lose her kids? I have 4 kids that I've raised.
Okay, we didn't raise him since he was 8 weeks old. Nobody in our family's been...
Yeah, he went and stayed at his grandparents' house. Every kid stays at their grandparents' house.
Maybe we should bring in some other family members that know that. I mean, I'm sure there's none here, but
what?
You can call.
Everybody on Bill's side and everybody that's on your family and Bill's family is all on your guys' side? I have no family now, pretty much.
Correct.
So it hurts because I feel like I'm fighting for my son alone.
Sasha, you would know. You know that would never happen. You guys were raised knowing that if anybody ever hurt you, you were to come to us. And I would tell you, I don't care who it is. I don't care if it's
uncle. To us, it didn't happen to me. It happened to my son.
But not by your dad.
Next, we're going to hear from the accused grandfather, Bill. We're going to find out why he says he is a loving, dedicated grandfather who was set up by this woman. We'll be right back. Is Bill still seeing this child?
No, he hasn't been seeing him.
You just told me he has.
Well, I mean, he has seen him. He's not seeing him on a regular basis, no. Okay, yeah, supposed to be what I say. I mean, he has seen him in passing.
Hey, Dr. Phil here. Did you know that more than 16 million kids in the U.S. are at risk of hunger each day? That's more than 1 in 5 children. Now, these are our neighbors, our kids that play in the neighborhood, co-workers, friends' children. The problem is closer than you would think. but so is the solution. Join me and visit feedingamerica.org/hunger to find your local food bank to help. I'm Dr. Phil, and together, we are Feeding America. Have you taken your son around Bill and Betty since these allegations have been leveled?
He's been around my mom and my sister. They told me in court a while ago that there was nothing against my mom, that we could have contact.
Has Bill had contact with him?
Bill has seen the children in passing, and he did not lie about that. He has also told his attorney that he has seen them in passing.
Well, let's not play games
I'm
here.
sorry, grandfather. Yes. No, yes, he has seen them. And here, his attorney, but never alone, because he would not do that. It was in public, never alone. And did you not have a birthday party for your sister, invite everybody, and he did not want to come? And you were there the whole time? Did you not come to our house and visit and bring them with you? You were there the whole time.
Yeah, I came to your house and visited.
Okay. Did we not help with school clothes this year, even though all of this nightmare we're living and really didn't have the funds to do it?
Yes, they did.
Excuse me, is Bill still seeing this child?
No, he hasn't been seeing him. No.
You just told me he has.
Well, I mean, he has seen him. He's not seeing him on a regular basis, no. They have. Okay. Yeah, that's what we would say. I mean, he has seen him in passing at work. Well, I mean, yes, he is seeing him.
He is seeing the child.
Yes, but never alone, because he never wants this to come up as an allegation. Again, he never wants to be put in this boat again. And who has brought those children to us? Us. We've never.
So he is still seeing him, just not alone.
Correct.
Okay, so he sees him regularly, but not alone.
Occasionally. It's not been regularly, but yes, occasionally, yes.
Like once a week, twice a week?
Oh, no. Maybe once or twice a month he has, yeah. It's not weekly.
Okay. Okay, so, and you know that. You bring him.
I've known of him, like, seeing in passing, to actually, when I had my son a couple months ago, I did not have a babysitter for my oldest son, and my mom said that she would watch at her mom's house, which was fine, even through the court system and everything. You can ask my attorney and everybody. I have been so dedicated into checking with everything. And yeah, when I picked him up, Bill was there. And it infuriated me, but I didn't say nothing, because for what? Me to blow up and ruin the whole court thing and me get in trouble? I'm not losing my kids. My kids mean the world to me.
Was there a restraining order?
We've been talking about him, but now I want to talk to him. Bill says he is innocent and claims all of this is Cindy and Sasha's fault. He is speaking out today to clear his name.
I was falsely accused of molesting my grandson. It's devastating, wrong, and I want to prove my innocence. I would never molest my grandson or anybody, no matter what, no shape, no how, or no form. I am not a child abuser. I am not a child molester. I taught my grandson how to walk and talk, potty trained him, and taught him to be a gentleman. I took my grandson to the first day of school. I pled guilty because my family had been through enough. If I had not pled guilty, I was going to prison. It's disturbing. It's not fair. I was never given a chance. I have been falsely accused by Cindy because of her being jealous and hateful and malicious of me and my family. Cindy is the mastermind of evil. She made up all this horse crap. My life has been destroyed at this point. I have no life. Because of this, I'm afraid to go out of my house. When these allegations came out, the community turned against me and looked at me as a monster. I received death threats and I was beat up. A lot of people are trying to make me out to be a monster. I am not. I'm a very proud man, and I will stand tall. What I want more than anything in the world is to be clear to this horror. I want Cindy and Sasha accountable for this nightmare they brought upon my family. Even through all this that's going on with me, Sasha hasn't reached out to help me, and I believe that makes her truly a sociopath.
Next, Bill is about to come face-to-face with me. We'll be right back. Well, we're out of time today. You're going to want to stay tuned because tomorrow we'll finally hear from the man we've been talking about, Bill. He is speaking out for the first time. Find out why he not only insists he's innocent, but also wants to have contact with the grandson he is accused of inappropriately touching. And Bill asked to take a polygraph test to prove he was actually innocent of the charges. We'll find out those results.
Tomorrow on an all-new Dr. Phil, Grandpa tells his side.
You're saying you didn't do this. I've got your plea agreement here.
We did not read that.
He says he's innocent.
You didn't know what you were pleading to.
No, sir.
You're telling me you didn't have time to read a 4-page agreement before you registered as a child abuser for life.
Now,
you touched that boy, isn't that the truth?
I didn't touch any child.
What were you afraid was going to come out if you went to trial?
the polygraph test.
Did you touch your step-grandson for sexual gratification? And your answer was?
No, sir. No, I did not.
And the results are... You do not want to miss what happens tomorrow. Log on to drphil.com and share your thoughts on our message boards. You can also find me on Facebook and Twitter using hashtag Dr. Phil and hashtag opposing sides. We'll see you tomorrow.